You like it? Getting such a great reaction from people. Literally, there's a guy on a scooter there, he's nearly fallen off trying to get a second look at it. Oh God, it's quite stressful driving in Paris in this. Now this might look like it's just been driven off a movie set, but this is actually a road legal car from Citroen. And I'm going to kick off this exclusive first drive with a rather bold statement. I think this is the most important electric car that we've seen in the past decade. Why? Well, before I tell you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and switch those notifications on, because if you're into electric cars, this is the place to be. So, the most important electric car that we've seen in a decade. That's quite a big claim, isn't it? So, to explain my thinking, I'm here in Paris on a first date with the Citroen Oli. The only problem I have is that I'm not driving this priceless laboratory on wheels in controlled conditions on a deserted test track, but out on the streets of central Paris with lots of cars. What could possibly go wrong?
So why is the Oli so important? Well, firstly, it breaks a cycle which has seen electric cars become more expensive, heavier and less efficient. It uses clever thinking to make sure the Oli uses less resources over its lifetime and answers almost all of the criticisms levelled at electric cars.
You know, there's so much to tell you about this car. It's kind of hard to know where to start, so I'm going to begin with all the basic facts. Now, it's 4.2 metres long. It's actually pretty big when you see it in the metal. Or should that be cardboard? Yeah, it should definitely be cardboard. Look, it's about the same size as a Volkswagen ID3 or a Vauxhall Mocha, but it weighs, and this is the really, really clever bit, just 1,000 kilograms. That's about half the weight of the heaviest VW ID3. Now, making it light means, of course, that it's more efficient, and as a result, it can go further with a smaller battery and use less energy. So having that smaller battery makes it cheaper to buy, and it's also cheaper to run. It's a very, very smart and also rather virtuous circle.
So let's talk prices. Citroen reckon the Oli would be around £20,000, about the same as a mid-range Ford Fiesta. So not bad, and definitely the kind of car we need to see more of. But this is less of a real car, and as I said earlier, more of a laboratory on wheels. Getting all this to work has meant Citroen's designers quite literally went back to the drawing board. Every single component has been analysed to see if weight and cost can be saved in what was a mammoth rethinking of the car.
Now, I think that the results of all that work take some calibration, because some of the components and materials that make the Oli so groundbreaking are interesting, to say the least. Most surprising of all, and I'm sure you'll agree with me actually, is that some of the panels are made of cardboard. Now, of course, that sounds like a terrible idea, doesn't it? Because if I leave my recycling out in the rain, the cardboard all turns to mush, and I would not be impressed if that happened with my car. But the Oli's flat bonnet, roof and rear load bed panels are made from recycled corrugated cardboard. Now, it's formed into a kind of honeycomb structure between fiberglass reinforced panels to stop them dissolving when they get wet. They're covered in polyurethane resin and a special paint which is often used on loading ramps. And that means that they are, wait for it, half the weight of a steel panel, but tough enough, as you can see, to stand on.
One thing you'll notice is this totally flat and vertical windscreen. Now that means it's cheaper to make and replace, but it also keeps the sun out on hot days, so you don't waste valuable energy on air conditioning. It's not as aerodynamic as a curvy, sloped screen, of course, but the Oli is electronically limited to 68 miles per hour to maximise efficiency. Now that will be a turn-off to many drivers, but it does mean that you won't be getting any speeding tickets on the motorway, and for the realistic amongst us who know our day-to-day driving consists of school runs, traffic jams and trips around town, it will be plenty. Also designed to help reduce the effects of the sun are these side windows which tilt downwards, and you can forget about heavy electric operation. They just flip up like we've seen on the Ami and the classic 2CV.
So the doors, well, they once again follow the example set by the Ami. They're identical on each side to make them easier to fit and repair, but they're mounted differently this time around. They're also much lighter than a conventional door, but just as safe. And to get into the back, you've got these smaller doors, which use the same kind of layout that you will have seen on cars like the BMW i3 and the Mazda MX-30. And round at the back, the Ollie has yet another party trick. It can become a flatbed truck. How perfect is that? Trips to IKEA, the garden centre, messy bikes and scooters. Oh, I love this car.
The rear seat headrests pop up into the roof, the back screen glass opens upwards, the tailgate folds down, and with the load bed panel removed, there's loads of space.
So let's talk about the 20-inch wheels. Probably no surprise when I tell you they're very clever too. So full aluminium wheels are really expensive. They use loads of energy to make and they're quite tricky and expensive to repair. But steel rims, well, they're really heavy. So what the Ollie does is cleverly use a combination of the two materials. That saves around 6 kilograms. And all those little savings, they really add up. The tyres are also made to last more than 300,000 miles because the main carcass here can be reused. They can simply be retread the way you can with truck tyres. Sorry, quick fit. I know it's not good news for you, but it's just another one of those really smart ideas that has come from all that work that the design team have done. And if you think this car is clever on the outside, come and take a look inside. Now, perhaps the most striking part in here, other than the colour, of course, is the seats. So I think not too long ago, we would have just rejected this kind of frame and mesh design, thinking it looked very uncomfortable and weird. Look, it's actually anything but. It's actually really supportive. And you know, there's a reason that expensive office chairs are made using some of the same techniques and materials. It's got loads of benefits for interior space, and it's also lighter too. Now, one of the other things you'll notice in here is that there is no screen. Hurrah! Citroen has acknowledged what loads of us already know. There is no point as a car maker trying to keep up with Apple and Google. If you're anything like me, you'll probably ignore the car's built-in infotainment system, no matter how bad or good it is. And you'll default to plugging in your phone using the better processor and connections that you get. So the Ollie just has points to connect your phone and a pair of removable speakers, which is brilliant. So the phone just slips in here, and actually the information from the phone will just be projected on the screen in front of you there. There's a couple of other really interesting things that I love as well. I thought this was loads of old golf tees down here, but actually it's not. It's just a really clever way to keep things from rolling around whilst you're driving. And I do love the whole kind of video game feel that you've got going on in front of you there. It's all sort of pixelated, reminds me of sort of Game Boys from the 90s. In fact, this whole thing has a feel actually of like you're in some kind of immersive game. And the best thing is that I get to take this Game Boy on the road for a drive. I don't know if you remember the VW Trekker. It's a car from probably the 70s. It reminds me a bit of that being in it. My mum and dad used to have one. And I can absolutely imagine the Ollie with this roof off in summer and it having more of that beach buggy feel. It's good visibility in here. And it goes without saying, it is getting loads of attention from people who are just, I can see them in the distance, sort of taking photographs, stopping. There's a busload of people waving over there. And it's that kind of car, you know, people have a really happy reaction to it. So the Ollie has got a 40 kilowatt hour battery, which is smaller than you'll find fitted something like the Corsa, but the range is claimed to be around 250 miles. So small battery means it charges quickly too, 20 to 80%. Takes just 23 minutes using a socket which you'll find under the Citroen badge on the nose.
And it isn't just in the driving that the Ollie scores when it comes to efficiency. Because instead of throwing the whole car away when it's looking a bit tired or becomes too expensive to fix, the Ollie will be easy to upgrade, repair, personalise. it is designed to last decades rather than be disposable. Citroen thinks you're going to pass the Oli down through the family. Your kids will be able to upgrade and change the look of it over time to suit different tastes and evolving technology. For me, this is Citroen really putting its money where its mouth is and placing sustainability at the heart of everything it does. And it's not the norm for an industry that usually aims to get us into shiny, brand new models every few years. And it's something I applaud. And all this is why I think the Oli is such a revolution. It takes all the best bits of the Ami, a car I love very much.
Good boy.
And it makes them more usable, more practical for people. It also has a sprinkling of other genius ideas, which mean it is going to have far less impact on the environment for decades. In fact, the Oli will make better use of the world's resources for its entire life, more than any other car I can think of.
So the big question is, will there be more than one Oli in the world? Well, the official answer to that question, and I have asked it, is just a very French shrug of the shoulders. But you know, we got that same response when we asked about the Ami, when that was just a concept, and look what happened there. But what I can tell you right now is that we're going to see the Oli's influence towards the end of next year on the replacement for the C3, which is also going to be electric. And after a chat with its designer here in Paris today, he has confirmed to me that there isn't a single thing on Ollie that they aren't pushing desperately to get into production cars. And that for me makes the future of cars really exciting.